Greetings, insatiable seekers of knowledge and inquisitive explorers of the spirit. Today we will lift the veil of time and embark on an exciting journey to explore the life of one of the most influential and mysterious people in human history, the Buddha. But don't expect the usual retelling of dry facts. We will dive into the depths of his soul, feel his doubts and triumphs, and see the man hidden behind the image of a legend. Are you ready for this incredible adventure? Then let's begin. In distant ancient India, more than 2,500 years ago, in a powerful royal family, was born an heir to the throne. He was named Siddhartha Gautama. The prince's birth was greeted with jubilation and hope because he was not just a child, but a symbol of prosperity and continuation of the lineage. However, shortly after his birth, the joy was overshadowed by the dark prediction of a wise ascetic who visited the palace. If this prince, he proclaimed, ever sees the suffering of the world, he will renounce all his worldly privileges, abandon luxury and power, to become a great spiritual teacher, enlightened, capable of pointing the way to liberation from suffering. King Bodhi, Siddhartha's father, was a man of strong will and firm beliefs. He did not want to lose his heir. He did not want his son to give up the greatness destined for him. Therefore, he made a decision which, as it seemed to him, should change the destiny foretold by the prophecy. He decided to protect Siddhartha from any manifestation of pain, sorrow, and injustice. He created a world for him where there was no place for old age, disease, and death, where only beauty, pleasure, and carefree life reigned. Siddhartha grew up in a luxurious golden cage, surrounded by servants who fulfilled his every wish. He was incredibly handsome, possessed a sharp mind, and extraordinary strength. His days were filled with music, dancing, exquisite feasts, and exciting games. He received the best education, studied military art and philosophy. He married the beautiful and virtuous Princess Yashodhara, and soon they had a son, whom they named Rahula. It seemed that his life was predetermined to become a powerful and just king, to rule his people wisely and nobly. But despite all this magnificence and happiness, deep down Siddhartha felt an inexplicable anxiety, a vague unease that neither riches, nor entertainment, nor even the love of his loved ones could drown out. He felt a kind of emptiness, as if he was missing something, as if he was not living his own life. Siddhartha's world, carefully built by his father, was an illusion, a fragile bubble that sooner or later had to burst, and that moment came. One day, during a secret sortie outside the palace walls, Siddhartha encountered the reality that had been so carefully hidden from him. He saw something that turned his whole life upside down and forced him to rethink all his beliefs. First, he met an old man, bent over by years and infirmity, whose body was covered with wrinkles, and his eyes were dimmed by the years he had lived. The old man leaned on a stick, and every step was given to him with great difficulty. Siddhartha had never seen anything like it before. He was shocked that time could so ruthlessly treat a person, turning him into a shadow of his former self. Then he saw a sick man lying on the side of the road. He groaned in pain. His body was covered with ulcers and pus. He was weak and helpless, and it seemed that death was already near. Siddhartha was shocked by the cruelty of the disease, by how it can deprive a person of his dignity and strength. The third meeting was a funeral procession. People carried the body of the deceased, mourning his departure. Siddhartha realized that death is the inevitable end of all living things, that no one can escape it. He understood that everything that we love and value will sooner or later be lost. Finally, he met a hermit wandering along the road. In humility and tranquility, wisdom and peace could be read in his eyes. He renounced worldly goods and dedicated his life to spiritual quests. Siddhartha was struck by his detachment and inner harmony. He saw in him hope that there is another path, a path to liberation from suffering. These four meetings were a revelation for Siddhartha. They destroyed his illusory world and forced him to face harsh reality. He realized for the first time that life is full of suffering, that old age, disease, and death are inevitable companions of human existence. He understood that wealth, power, and pleasure cannot protect from these sufferings. Returning to the palace, Siddhartha could no longer remain the same. His heart was filled with sadness and compassion. He was tormented by questions to which he could not find answers. Why do people suffer? Is there a way to get rid of suffering? What is the meaning of life? He could no longer enjoy luxury and entertainment, knowing that suffering and injustice existed beyond the palace walls. He felt that he had to find answers to his questions, that he had to find a path to liberation from suffering. He spent days and nights in contemplation and prayer. He stopped eating and sleeping, immersing himself in deep meditation. He sought wise teachers, but no one could give him the answers he was looking for. One night, when everyone in the palace was asleep, Siddhartha made a decision that changed the course of history. He realized that he could no longer stay in his golden palace, that he had to leave his home, his family, his kingdom, to go in search of truth. He quietly approached the bed of his wife Yashodhara and his son Rahula. He looked at their sleeping faces for a long time, feeling immense love and sadness. He knew that he was leaving them for a higher purpose, that he had to find a path to liberation from suffering, not only for himself, but for all living beings. Then he left the palace and saddled his faithful horse Kanthaka. He left his home, his family, his kingdom, to become a wandering ascetic, to dedicate his life to spiritual quests. This was the night of the great renunciation, the night when Prince Siddhartha Gautama renounced everything he had to become the Buddha. Siddhartha wandered through India, seeking teachers and studying various spiritual practices. He renounced all worldly goods, wore simple clothes, ate alms, and slept in the open air. He subjected himself to severe trials, starved, exhausted his body, hoping that this would help him achieve enlightenment. He studied with the most famous ascetics of the time, but nothing gave him satisfaction. He realized that asceticism is not the path to truth, that exhaustion of the body does not lead to enlightenment. He realized that he had to find another path, a path that would be based on wisdom and compassion. After long years of wandering and self-torture, Siddhartha weakened and became exhausted. He realized that he was on the verge of death. He realized that he would not be able to achieve enlightenment if he died. He decided to stop asceticism and start eating normally. He sat under the Bodhi tree, vowing not to get up until he found answers to his questions. He plunged into deep meditation, focusing his mind on the search for truth. For many days and nights, he struggled with his doubts, fears, and temptations. He experienced visions that revealed to him the true nature of reality. He saw his past lives. He understood the law of karma and reincarnation. He realized that the cause of suffering is ignorance and attachment to worldly things. At dawn, after a long and arduous struggle, Siddhartha attained enlightenment. He became the Buddha, which means awakened. He found the path to liberation from suffering, the Eightfold Path, which includes right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Having become the Buddha, Siddhartha dedicated the rest of his life to preaching his teachings. He traveled through India, teaching people compassion, wisdom, and nonviolence. He said that everyone can achieve enlightenment, regardless of their origin or social status. He founded the Sangha, a community of monks and nuns who dedicated their lives to studying and spreading his teachings. He had many disciples who helped him in his mission. The Buddha taught that life is full of suffering, but that there is a way to liberation from this suffering. He taught that the cause of suffering is ignorance and attachment to worldly things. He taught that the path to liberation is the Eightfold Path, which leads to wisdom, compassion, and peace. His teachings have spread throughout the world and have become one of the most widespread religions on earth. Buddhism inspires millions of people to live more conscious and happier lives. The Buddha died at the age of 80, surrounded by his disciples. His last words were, "All compounded things are impermanent, strive for your own salvation with diligence. But the story of the Buddha is not just the story of one man's life. It is a story about the opportunity that each of us has, the opportunity to awaken, realize our true nature, and free ourselves from suffering. His teachings are alive and today, offering us a path to wisdom, compassion, and peace. And here, dear viewer, the story of the Buddha becomes not just an ancient legend, but a personal challenge. It is not just a story about enlightenment in the distant past, but an invitation to your own awakening, which is available to each of us right here and now. If you were touched by this story, if you felt a response in your heart, don't forget to like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to explore the depths of the human spirit together. Leave a comment, share your thoughts on the teachings of the Buddha, on how it can change our lives. Perhaps it is your comment that will become the spark that ignites the flame of enlightenment in someone else. Together we can create a world where wisdom, compassion, and peace become not just words, but a reality that we embody in our lives every day until we meet again on the path to awakening. Again, I strongly encourage you to test this with your chosen TTS engine to assess the result. It's possible that these periods will be interpreted as sentence endings, creating pauses that are longer than you intend.